Hey, it's me. Ignore the nest on my head. I just watched a really interesting YouTube short that is titled Industries That Make You the Most Money. Not only was the content of the video interesting, but also the comments on the video were pretty interesting. And the argument that this guy has, which I'll link it in the description if you want to watch it, but the argument that this guy has is the stuff that sounds cool is going to be the most competitive, probably because it sounds cool and it tends to be romanticized and sensationalized a lot. I want to be a model. I want to be an actress. I want to be an author. God, that was one. That was a popular one. Be creative. Please have those dreams. But the point that he's making is that whatever you decide to do, make sure that you're just really good at it. And I really like the emphasis that he has on building skills. I think that's really what the secret sauce is. If you want to be irreplaceable, if you want to make yourself as distinguishable as possible, what are specific, highly desirable skill sets or traits that you can deliver? Best example I can think of right now is probably my husband. I love that guy. And he has a background in, get ready, biomedical engineering. I don't even know what that is. To me, that implies a lot of technicality. That implies a lot of like science and very mathematical, logistical, like basically nerdy stuff. But what's cool about him is that he has really, really great soft skills. So he can talk about, I might be stretching here. I don't want to insult, but he reminds me a lot of Carl Sagan, where he can describe very complex, high-level concepts or scenarios in average language to the average person. And I know that because I ask him questions a lot. That is a very particular skill set that not many people have. Knowing a lot about something that's very difficult to understand, like biomedical engineering. Shoot, I was a teacher. I don't know anything about that. Taking something as complex and high-level as that and just knowing how to talk about it to the average person, like, I don't know of many people that have that skill. And that's exactly what this guy said in the comments. He said that my finance professor told us something on our last day of class that really stuck with me. If you want to be successful, don't follow your passion. Instead, gain a set of rare and valuable skills. But Lauren, what skills, like how do you know what skills to build? This is purely just me. This is not coming at all from the video. What are you curious about? Like, what is it that you are just naturally interested in? Because having that kind of like intrinsic motivation is going to make it so much easier to stick with, follow through with, and ultimately keep coming back to that thing. You could be a jack of all trades but a master of none, or you can be a master of one and not be a jack of all trades. In the space that I'm in, which is the entrepreneurial space, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades, but you kind of have to market yourself as a master of one now that I think about it. So what is it that you're very curious about? What's the kind of stuff that just used to suck you in and keep you occupied for hours on end as a kid? When in doubt, if you're like in that spot in your life where you're like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what to do, kind of like an existentially sort of crisis, particularly for maybe young adults or maybe middle-aged adults, I would think about what did you used to do a lot of when you were a kid and how can you revisit that? Here's another one. There are only two ways to make good money. Do something others don't want to do or that others can't do. I think following your passion can be a little toxic, and I do agree with what this guy said that, oh, just follow your passion is a very privileged thing to say if you think about it. The rich people follow their passions because they can literally afford to follow their passions. It's very similar to people who were like, oh, if you have a toxic workplace, if you hate your job, if you hate your boss, just quit. Wouldn't that be nice? What am I gonna have to lean on? Ooh, this is a good distinction too. The true best advice is not to follow your passion, but rather be passionate about anything that you undertake. Being passionate is a state of mind that can be applied to anything and everything. It is never linked to a particular activity or exercise. You can generate passion toward any goal, and I think that is where that intrinsic motivation comes from. And where does passion come from? I learned this from Elizabeth Gilbert in her book Big Magic, which was the book that actually got me back into reading as an adult. I didn't like reading for a really long time. She says that passion comes from intense curiosity. And then Albert Einstein, I think, even said something like, I'm not any smarter than one person or another. I just happen to be extremely curious or extremely passionate about the thing that I do. But how is it that you achieve your dreams? Because what you're doing now is most likely not the thing that you would like to be doing. You can either eat your vegetables now or later. I'm going to use my aunt as an example. I know that you don't care about my family, and that's very okay, but my aunt is a really good example of this. She was an environmental lawyer, went to Harvard, got the big corner office job in the Windy City, did that for a while, logged her billable hours, did all the things that she needed to do, ate her vegetables, got her bag. She got out and now teaches at a university teaching business ethics. And I can't speak for her, but I would imagine that that job has a lot more pros to it than cons, maybe, as far as like workplace culture, workplace expectations, and the things that she's required to bill for. Or you can give it a go, give it a fair shot, especially if you're younger. Go for it, see what magic you can make happen, and if it doesn't work out, consider what your backup plan is. If this doesn't work out, it's not that you're being pessimistic, it's that you're being realistic. If this doesn't work out, let's just have a backup insurance plan. What is it that's going to kick in? Are you going to wait tables? Are you going to tutor on the side? Are you going to do babysitting? Live back home with your parents and go to school? I don't know. But it's so interesting. Like, how do you get your passion to come alive and fund your lifestyle, fund your life? If that isn't the golden question, I'm certainly not qualified to do that. I would say that I'm living closer to my passion now than I was before. But what I'm learning about at least myself and the stuff that really lights me up is that it's not necessarily a thing. It's more of like a state of being or a way of being for me. I am first and foremost an educator. Yeah, all of my degrees are in education, but I've learned that I don't do well in the conventional sense of teaching because people don't appreciate it. I was a public school teacher making $35,000 a year, living in my parents' basement, funding my own classroom. It was tough. My class was difficult. I don't know if any past kids of mine are watching this, but love ya, but boy, you guys were hard. Fast forward, what would that be? Oh, and I was working at the beginning of the pandemic. So let's say fast forward however many years that is, 5, I guess. I'm now self-employed. I get to work from home. I make a little bit more than I did as a teacher, gradually scaling each and every year. It's more than any kind of pay raise I would get with having a master's and working in the same district for a couple decades. I'm married. I have a dog. I have a home that I'm very lucky to have and live in. And being an educator, not necessarily in the traditional sense, but in the way that I define it and establish it for myself, allows me to sustain the things and keep the things that I've earned. And this is just on my own individual basis. There's going to be different answers, approaches, solutions, perspectives, etc. for each individual person, just because circumstances vary so widely for individuals. But I lean on my skills as an educator. I lean on my people skills. I'm a deeply sensitive, highly empathetic person, and I'm able to read people pretty quickly. That's another skill that I have. That applies really, really well to marketing and even content creation or content marketing, particularly on the organic side, which is where you are building relationships naturally with people, with strangers, without doing any kind of pay-to-play model, without paying for ads or paying for a funnel or whatever. Blogging, videos, YouTube, social media, newsletters, all that stuff, podcasting, books. I am in the business of relationship building. I have clients that rely on me to complete the work that I say that I'm going to do, and to do it well, do it on time, and to take initiative doing it. Initiative/proactivity is another skill of mine. And like a lot of the best skills that are out there are not things that you need talent for. What is that list? You've probably heard of it. Being on time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, that one's my favorite, doing extra, and being prepared. Go the extra mile and it will never be crowded. I think we live in a space where instant gratification is now kind of the expectation. Technology, I would say, in the way that it's integrated into our lives sort of like highlights that. Everything you could ever want fits into your back pocket at the touch of your fingertips. It is so accessible nowadays, but what isn't as accessible, what continues to rely on hard work, working harder, making connections, leveraging those skills, those non-replaceable skills that you have, that stuff takes time. That is a really big seed that you're planting, and depending on what your version of success is, what that looks like for you, that's going to take some serious time to water and to give sunlight to and to fertilize. I mean, have you ever seen an apple grow in 24 hours after planting the seed? No. Anything worth doing is going to take a while. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. That doesn't mean that you're not meant to do it. If it doesn't immediately happen, you might just be one of those people like me where it all happens in the form of a slow burn, and that's okay. And the reason that's okay, and probably better, I would argue, is because that growth is a lot easier to keep up with. And if it's easier to keep up with, that means that it's more sustainable and you can control it and get a handle on it and not let it get away from you, versus that very fast, quick attention, viral type of thing, I guess. So that's kind of all I got. I just wanted to share some stuff with you. I don't know what the weather's looking like over there where you are, but it is cold and rainy. even though we're in May and I have a barometric pressure headache. So I'm gonna go. I still have work to do, but I hope you found this interesting. If you're into this kind of thing, consider subscribing, and I don't know, check out my other stuff in the description.